Welcome, Health Flex participants. My name is Elise, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. Today, we will be covering Harness the Power of an HSA, and Callie will be our presenter. Also on the line with me, we do have Kelly Whittick with the Director of Health and Wellbeing from Wespath, and she'll be here to assist us with any questions that you guys may have as well. Our session will go as follows. We will have the presentation, which will last around 12 to 15 minutes, and then we'll save time at the end to answer some of your questions live. Your microphones are muted for the presentation. However, if you do have questions, please utilize the Q&A tab located on the right-hand side of your screen. Or for smaller devices, you may need to scroll down to the bottom to locate that, or look for the blue chat bubble. We will also have some polls during the presentation today just to encourage participation. Those polls will be popping up on your screen, or you can locate them next to the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have any questions or do need assistance during the presentation, please reach out to us with that Q&A tab. We'll go ahead and turn the time over to Callie for the presentation. Thank you for joining today.
Hello, thank you all so much for coming. My name is Callie, like we said, and I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes to show how you can tap into an HSA's triple tax benefit and leave time at the end to answer any of those questions live. Combining a health equity health savings account with an HSA qualified health plan delivers incredible benefits. HSAs are the only triple tax advantage accounts available. That's why we like to call them the unicorn of healthcare accounts. HSAs allow you to contribute pre tax funds through your paycheck, grow tax free earnings through investing and interest, and you can enjoy tax free distributions to cover any qualified medical expense. If you choose a HSA qualified health plan, also known as a high deductible or a consumer choice health plan, you can use your tax free funds to purchase all the items pictured here and much, much more. For Health Flex, those are going to be the HSA plans or the H plans. They will show up in green in your materials from your company. They are the H1500, H2000, and H3000. So that's a very important thing to remember. Now, let's face it, health insurance terminology can be pretty confusing. Let's make sure we all understand a few health insurance terms that'll be important for our discussion today. First, we have premiums. They are what you pay to have health insurance. It doesn't matter if you don't use your insurance at all, you do need to pay the full premium. And you want to make sure that you look at both your premium credit and the total premium to consider the amount that you're going to pay each month. Next, we have the deductible. Your deductible is the amount of money you have to pay for health care before your health insurance plan will start to pay for medical services. In other words, your health insurance kicks in only after you've paid the amount of your deductible out of your own pocket. Generally, plans with lower premiums have higher deductibles, and plans with high premiums have lower deductibles. And for the HSA plan, you also have to pay for pharmacy expenses up to the deductible before the insurance will kick in. Now we have coinsurance. This is going to be that fixed percentage that your insurance that you pay. So you will pay a certain amount, and then your insurance will pay the rest of the bill. Then we have the out-of-pocket max. The out-of-pocket max is the amount that you pay out of pocket for the covered medical services in a plan year. After you spend this amount on deductibles and coinsurance for a network care and services, your health plan will pay 100% of the costs of those covered benefits. And the out-of-pocket maximum is the same for 5 of those 6 plans that you have. Now we're going to go ahead and define preventative care. Preventative care includes screenings, checkups, counseling, anything to prevent illnesses, disease, or other health concerns. HSA qualified plans cover 100% of your preventative care. Like I mentioned, HSA qualified plans do have lower premiums than traditional plans, and it enables you to unlock immediate savings as you put the money you've saved on premiums into that HSA instead. Because this is done pre tax, you have more money to pay for qualified medical expenses. And some of the HealthFlex HSA plans do come with employer money included in the HSA. So that'll be included in the maximum contribution. Hypothetically, let's say you have 30% in taxes between payroll, federal, and state income taxes. You save it that you save by contributing to your HSA. That means for every $1,000 you contribute, you save around $300. This may be a bit higher than some clergy pay on their taxes. The marginal rate based on the denominational average compensation is about 22%. But for simplicity of math, we're going to use 30% today. That means that for, again, every $1,000 you contribute, you're going to save around $300. This is an extra $300 you can use on health insurance deductibles and coinsurance, medical treatment, including non traditional treatments like massage, chiropractic treatments, and even acupuncture. Note that massage therapy does need a does need to be recommended by your physician, and you will need a letter of medical necessity in order for it to be used for those funds. But you could just ask your doctor to write one when they go and recommend the massage, and then you are free to use whichever massage provider you'd like. You can use it for prescription medication. So if you have prescriptions monthly, you can just put your HSA card on file with your pharmacy and they can charge it every month, and then you can just go and pick up those prescriptions. You can use it for everyday items such as cold medicine, allergy medicine, and other over the counter medications. And also vision and dental expenses that may not be covered by your health plan. And speaking of some things not covered by your health plan, if you do have a favorite doctor that's out of network, you can still continue to use them by using your HSA funds. Instead of paying extra federal, state, and payroll taxes, the money is yours to use on medical needs or even just to save for the future. You can balance maximizing contributions to employer retirement accounts like the 403B or UMPIP and individual retirement accounts while maximizing the HSA contributions. Don't forget, you can call EY through Wespath to assist. One of the things I love the most about the HSA is that you can invest your HSA funds so that they can grow over the long term. Just think of an HSA as a health IRA. And when you turn 65, that HSA will act like a traditional IRA, allowing penalty free distributions for any reason. Withdrawals made for purposes other than qualified medical expenses will just be subject to ordinary income taxes. But remember, part of the triple tax advantage means that you can use that money for health expenses in retirement and not pay taxes like you would from any other retirement account. So that's what's really nice about the HSA is in retirement, once you're over 65, you can use it for items and pay taxes that aren't medical expenses. But if you continue to use it for medical expenses, it'll never be taxed. Now we're just going to take a quick moment to review. Based on what we've said so far, which taxes will you be required to pay on the money that you contribute to your HSA? Is it state income tax, except in California and New Jersey, federal income tax, payroll tax, or none of the above? We'll just give you just another moment to think about it. Take your time, no pressure. All right, it is none of the above. HSAs are a great way to save for your long term medical expenses. Because your HSA contributions are made pre-tax, they grow tax-free and can be withdrawn tax-free when used on qualified medical expenses. Keep in mind, while most states follow the federal tax guidelines for HSAs, California and New Jersey do not recognize HSAs as tax-free at the state level. Also, keep in mind that clergy taxes may affect your situation as well. Please speak with a tax advisor who specializes in clergy taxes to see how this may affect you. Even if you don't have an immediate expense in mind, it's still very smart to be prepared. In fact, over half of Americans every year are surprised by unexpected medical expenses. Now that you understand why you should contribute, let's talk about how much you can add to these incredible accounts. If you only cover one person, you'll be in the single coverage bracket. So you can contribute a maximum of $3,650. And if you cover at least two people, you'll be in the family coverage bracket. So you can contribute a maximum of $7,300. And if you're 55 and older, you can you have what's called a an extra catch-up contribution. That means you can add an extra $1,000 to that maximum. So it would be actually 8,300 or $4,650 for the maximum if you're over the age 55. The contribution limits do include any contributions, including what you personally contribute, as well as what's included with the plans in the case of the H1500 and H2000, and any excess premium credit if you have it. You never lose your HSA dollars. Money in your account rolls over year after year, even if you change health plans or employers, or even if you retire. And people do change jobs an average of 12 times throughout their careers. So it's important to know that this account is with you even as you move on. And we can transfer other HSAs into your HealthEquity one as well. And it's especially nice to know that it rolls over and you can transfer it because of, like we mentioned before, you never know when a medical emergency might happen, and it's always good to be prepared. We're going to look at two examples of how an HSA could be used in the next year to help people save on healthcare costs. Note that these are used for illustrative purposes only. Health plans do vary, and we encourage you to learn more about your HSA qualified plan to see how it benefits you. Now let's go ahead and we'll meet Camilla. In her late 20s, Camilla is healthy and rarely goes to the doctor, except for yearly physicals and vaccines. When comparing options, she realizes these visits are 100% covered with the HSA qualified health plan, and she can save $100 each month on premiums compared to the traditional plan. Instead of paying higher premiums that she likely won't benefit from, she decides instead to build a health savings account by contributing the $100 monthly premium difference directly into her health savings account instead. One late summer evening, while enjoying a bike ride through town, she's involved in an accident. Not knowing the extent of her injury, she calls a friend to pick her up and bring her to urgent care. Camilla immediately gets knots in her stomach, thinking about the bill from the visit. Her friend, noticing this, reminds her that she can use the savings she's built in her HSA to pay for the visit. Just to make sure, though, Camilla calls HealthEquity, even though she thinks it's unlikely that someone will answer at such a late hour. Within seconds, someone is on the other end of the line, assuring her that she can use the funds in her HSA to pay for the visit. In addition, she learns she can use her HSA to pay for both chiropractic visits and over-the-counter and prescription medications that resulted from the injury. In November, Camilla is still recovering from her accident when she's offered a new position working remotely from home for a company she's always wanted to work for. Her HSA account stays with her as she transitions to the new job, which allows her to continue her medical treatment without any interruption. At the end of the year, Camilla realizes she spent about $1,000 recovering from her accident. By paying with her pre tax funds, Camilla saved $300 that went toward her qualified treatment. Now fully recovered, she hops back on her bike with confidence, knowing she's made the right decision by choosing an HSA. Now we're just going to take a quick peek at a family using their HSA as part of their long-term health retirement savings and what the outcome may look like depending on what they choose to do with it. Dominic and Eliana are nearing retirement with their kids almost grown out of the house. They're contributing to Eliana's UMPIP account through her church and have chosen one of the HSA plans because it offers savings now on their various healthcare needs and the ability to invest for their future. Including the amount with the plan and any excess premium credit, they contribute the maximum family amount each year to the HSA and decide to set aside $2,000 as part of their long-term savings. If they had decided to let this $2,000 simply roll over year after year for 24 years at a rate of 0.5%, without investing it, it would provide them with nearly $51,000 to use on health expenses in retirement. However, since they decided to take the same $2,000 and invest the funds at an average of 6% annual return rate, they would almost double that amount and have over $101,000 to use in retirement. Not only is this a significant portion of what they will need for healthcare expenses in the future, if they use it on qualified medical expenses, this money will never be taxed in retirement use. So again, once you're in retirement, once you're over the age of 65, you can keep using the money for qualified medical expenses and it'll still never be taxed. Choosing to invest even a portion of your HSA and leave it invested each year can significantly increase your retirement health savings. These two examples show you multiple ways you can use an HSA to maximize your savings. Let's just review what to check for as you enroll. In order to be eligible to contribute to an HSA, make sure you enroll in one of the HealthFlex HSA plans and that you do not have any other coverage, including a spouse's non-HSA plan, Medicare, TRICARE, or a traditional health plan. Again, if you are on a spouse's non-HSA plan or Medicare or TRICARE or a traditional health plan, then you will not be eligible for the HSA. Verify that you do not have access to a full purpose flexible spending account, even if it's through your spouse. If you elect an FSA through HealthFlex, HealthEquity will make sure it's a limited purpose, which is for dental and vision only, so you can rest assured in your decision. And make sure you're not claimed as a dependent on anyone's tax returns. And that's it. We want to make it easy for you to use your HSA as part of your retirement strategy. HealthEquity provides access to a complete investment spectrum with options to suit every member regardless of age, HSA balance, or investment experience. Once you have saved the minimum investment threshold amount, you can enroll in automated investing and select the right type of funds for your goals. In fact, you can make your investment fund choices before you meet your threshold so it's ready to go. And your investment threshold is $1,000. So you can set it up so as soon as it reaches $1,000, anything above it will be immediately put in the investment portfolio. You can choose from a lineup of 23 Vanguard funds, including 6 target date funds, helping you find the perfect retirement savings mix for your goal. These funds range from stocks to bonds and from international investments to real estate. Wherever you're at on your journey toward retirement, your HSA is a powerful tool to help you reach your goal. There are so many qualified medical expenses to choose from. There's medical care, vision, dental, personal health, and even alternative care. You can easily search for eligible expenses to use your funds at learn.healthequity.com/QME. This is our interactive list. You just type in what you're looking for and it'll tell you, as well as give you some similar items that go with it as well. This is one of my favorite websites as someone who does use this account, and I highly recommend bookmarking this page. It'll come in handy more often than you'd think. Whatever you choose to contribute, we make it easy to use your HSA funds. You can either log in directly through benefitsaccess.org or create a direct login and manage everything with our simple mobile app. Our member services team is available 24/7, 365 days a year to take your calls and respond to any questions that you have about your HealthEquity HSA account. Now, with the time remaining, let's go ahead and get your questions answered.
Okay, thank you, Callie. I'm going to go ahead and jump in for the question portion just to give Callie a break. So we do have a bunch of great questions coming through, and we're going to be here to answer them both in the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can verbally as well. We did just have a great question come through as if are you able to have an HSA if you have Medicare, even if it is only Part A? So do want to make a clarification about HSAs and Medicare. So if you are enrolled on any part of Medicare, you are not allowed to contribute to an HSA. However, if you already had an HSA from the past, you can still use your HSA to pay for qualified medical expenses. You just cannot contribute any more money to it. So you don't have to get rid of your HSA if you're on Medicare. You just cannot add any more funds to it. So just want to make sure we are clear on how the HSA works with Medicare. And we do have a question of what the Health Flex phone number is. Kelly, if you have that, if you're able to publish that, or you can also jump online and announce the phone number. And yes, we have a couple questions about if the presentation is being recorded. So yes, it's going to be recorded, and the presentation should be sent within no later than Monday. We should hopefully have this out by later today, this afternoon. How difficult is it to prove that expenses are medically necessary or medically eligible and therefore exempt from taxes? So as long as you are going off of that list that Callie had posted, um, and Callie, if you want to put that back on the screen. So the website that we have available is learn.healthequity.com/QME. So you can view the eligible list there. Also, IRS publication 502 to have eligible expenses. So as long the basic rules of thumb are as long as that is required for your like a certain diagnosis or for treatment and it's not like an elective or like a cosmetic procedure, I should clarify, then it should is usually covered. So if your insurance pays a portion and but they have a portion that you need to pay, then that would be eligible. Um, the list is not, a full list as there are, thousands of items that could be on there and it'd be hard to list every single one out. But as long as that is something that you are needing to help with a certain condition you've been diagnosed with, or, for preventative care issues like, your yearly checkups or medications that you have, things like that, tests, blood work, lab work, that those type of things are all medically necessarily for your health, then they are covered. Now if it's something that's elective, then those things may be determined based off of the situation. So your doctor may need to write a letter of medical necessity for some of those items. Now, the only time you would ever really need to prove that is if you're audited by the IRS. So Health Equity does not require receipts. It's kind of up to you to make sure you are using it for eligible expenses. And again, we have that list on the screen so you can double check, or you can also call our member services as they are available 24/7 to answer those questions and help you decide if those are eligible or not. If you are retired and under the age of 65, can you contribute to the HSA? So this is a good question. So as long as you are on a high deductible health plan that is HSA eligible, so if you're signed up through that Health Flex plan, then you can, as long as you are also not on Medicare. So if you're retired, that is fine. You just cannot be on Medicare. If you are receiving any type of Medicare, that does disqualify you from contributing to an HSA.
And then just some additional information on that. So our pre-65 retirees, they can absolutely contribute to an HSA as long as they're otherwise eligible. You just can't do it through the pre-tax contribution. So you'd have to go ahead and open the account. You could still get the amount that was included with the plan you selected if you select an H1500 or H2000 plan. But if you want to have personal contributions, you'll need to send those directly as post-tax contributions to HealthEquity, and then you can claim those on your taxes after the fact.
Great. And I do have another question, Kelly, that I think will be good for you. So this is a question regarding premiums. Will the premiums change over time?
Well, the premiums for the plans do change each year, but the plans won't change during the calendar year. So each year during annual election, you will want to take a look at the premiums of the different plans, and your premium credit can potentially change depending on what your plan sponsor chooses. So you can find those details in Alex Benefits Counselor, and you can also find those details by going to benefitsaccess.org and going through the open enrollment process.
Okay, great. Next question we have, should we expect a new HSA card in the mail this year? So if you have had a HSA previously and it's been through HealthEquity, you're going to use the same card because your funds do roll over year after year. So your same card will work as long as it is still active because it does have an expiration date on it. If your card has expired or is getting close to expire, we do send out new cards with between 30 and 60 days before they expire. So you should get a new card. But it's not like an insurance card where they send you out a new insurance card every year. Since it's just a debit card, they will keep reloading those funds on them as you're contributing, and you're able to use that year after year. So great question.
And sorry, before we go on to the next one, for HealthFlex participants, the Health Savings Account card is the purple HealthEquity card. So it's purple, it says Health Savings Account on it. If you happen to have a second card, either a teal card that says Healthcare Account or that blue and orange WageWorks card, those would be for flexible spending accounts or health reimbursement accounts. So for your Health Savings Account, you want to use that purple HealthEquity card.
Thank you. What happens to my HSA account when I die? This is a great question. And since the HSA is a savings account, it can actually be inherited and passed on. You can name a beneficiary on the account. Since this is an account that you will own, it's not an employer account that leaves if you leave that employer or if you pass on. So you are able to add a beneficiary through the member portal, or you can call member services and we can help you add that as well. Now, if you elect your spouse as a beneficiary, then the HSA is able to transfer to your spouse as their HSA, and they're able to keep the same tax advantages and use it as if it was their HSA now. So the HSA just transfers to their name and it keeps all the same tax advantages. Now, you are able to add somebody else other than a spouse as a beneficiary. Just keep in mind the IRS does not allow for that same tax savings to remain. So they would just need to mark it as income in that year that you would pass away, and they would just claim that on their taxes. So in short, if you claim your spouse, they can inherit the HSA as their HSA. If you claim somebody else, then they just have to claim it as income on their taxes.
I want to answer a couple of questions about investments, and then folks from HealthEquity, please feel free to add some additional color. One of the questions that we have is, how do you choose your HSA investment amount? And the question is, can you get that where you make your elections? And the answer to that is not quite. So what you do is you still go to benefitsaccess.org, but you'll click on that health tab, and there's a link that says reimbursement accounts. And that link will take you to HealthEquity's site without an additional username and password. And once you're on HealthEquity's site, that's where you can go and choose your HSA, how much of your HSA funds you want to put in the investment side. And then Elise, or Sarah, somebody also asked if you have funds or if you have money, your HSA money invested, and you need to use some of it. How do you access that? How do you access those funds to pay an expense?
That's a good question. So you will have two separate accounts, your HSA cash balance and your HSA invested balance. Now, the cash balance does have a threshold so that you have money available immediately. But if you are needing more money that is available in your HSA cash, you are able to sell. And we don't have individual fees for each transaction or every time you sell. So you can not have to worry about, adding additional fees if you're making a transaction. So you're able to go into your investment desktop and select which funds you want to sell or just how much you're wanting to sell. And they can be sold and deposited back into your HSA cash account within 5 business days. And sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's the next day, depending on when and how you submit it. But usually within 5 business days, that is going to be deposited, sold from the investments and deposited back into your cash account within 5 days.
Haley, so you have a question about if a couple is retired and they're over 65, they'll have Medicare, but HealthFlux does allow them to continue to keep their pre-65 dependent child on the plan. If the dependent child is enrolled in an HSA, can they make contributions on that child's behalf?
Okay, yeah, great question. So if you are obviously turning 65, you're going on Medicare, you're not eligible to contribute. However, if you have family members that are still on your health plan with you and you are able to claim them as a dependent on your taxes, then you can use your funds for them. However, keep in mind, so the HSA is going to be your account. So if it's listed under you and you're over 65, you cannot contribute to the account because you're over 65. Now, if they are over the age of 18, then they can open their own HSA account and you could contribute to that one. However, if they're under the age of 18, then they're not able to have their own HSA account yet, but you can use your HSA funds for them. So no, you cannot contribute to the account still, and they cannot contribute to the account if they're under the age of 18. But if over the age of 18, then they can have an HSA in their account under your health plan, and you can contribute to that one instead. But your account, since it's listed in your name, you're over 65, you can't contribute anymore, but you can spend your funds on them.
Hey, we have another question about a retired educator who's receiving retirement funds, and are they eligible to have an HSA? And I believe the answer to that is if you're just receiving retirement income, but not receiving a retiree medical plan through that prior employer, and you're not on Medicare, you could still potentially have an HSA. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yes. As long as you are still on a medical plan of some sort that is HSA eligible, as long as that's not Medicare, then yes, you can continue to contribute to an HSA and have an HSA. So the clarification is that it's just an HSA qualified plan, that it's not some other health coverage, including Medicare. Then yes, you can continue to contribute even if you're retired.
We have a question about if somebody does nothing during this enrollment period, will their current health plan and HSA remain the same for 2022? So you will be, if you're enrolled in an HSA plan in 2021 and you don't do anything, you will remain in that same plan for 2022. However, we will not roll over your personal HSA contributions. So if you do want to continue to make personal HSA contributions in 2022, we will ask you to go in and make those elections affirmatively during the AE period, please.
Okay. There's a question saying, I will be using an HSA for the first time. How soon in the new year should I receive that HSA debit card? So for this, once your open enrollment closes and those enrollments get sent to HealthEquity, we do try to have those cards all sent out before the beginning of the plan year. So they should be sent out. Usually they only take around 2 weeks to get mailed out, but there could be mailing delays in some areas. So by the end of the year, hopefully by January 1st. If you have not received that card by January 1st, you can call our member services and we can request a new one, or see if there was issues with your address, of maybe that's why it wasn't delivered, things like that. But definitely call, in the new year if you have not yet received your card. You can also go onto the member portal and request a new card if needed as well. But we do recommend you call member services because that way they can see if there was an issue with your address upon mailing. So you definitely should receive that before January 1st. So great question. If I am 65 and still working and I don't go on Medicare, can I still contribute to my HSA? So yes, you can as long as you're not on Medicare. Now I do want to mention that once you turn 65, if you choose to delay Medicare, that is fine. Keep in mind that Medicare though has this really weird rule that if you do delay Medicare, once you do go on Medicare, they can backdate your effective enrollment date up to 6 months in the past. So before you get on the Medicare, you will want to confirm of what your effective date would be because you will want to stop making contributions to your HSA before that effective Medicare date. So just keep that in mind and make sure you contact Medicare to see when your effective start date will be when you do decide to go on there.
And we do have a nice document for people who are approaching age 65 or approaching Medicare eligibility, and I'll make sure to publish that in the chat. I think it's a nice tool for people, or publish it in the Q&A, because we want to make sure that people, as they're approaching Medicare eligibility, are kind of thinking about some things that those who aren't approaching Medicare eligibility don't have to worry about.
Okay. There is a question of what is it meant to optimize my HSA in the report I receive regarding my balances. So this is something you may see on your emails that you get or also on your member portal. If you log in, there's just a little link you can click on to optimize your HSA. So these are different things you can do to ensure that your HSA just is being used to the best of its abilities. So things like making sure you have a beneficiary listed, because if you were to pass away, then it's a lot longer process to get those funds dispersed out to somebody. If there's not a beneficiary listed, it has to go through all the court and legal systems, things like that. So we're just trying to help everything run smoothly. So listing a beneficiary, also adding a bank account so that if you want to get reimbursed, we can send that to you quickly. If you add a bank account, we can do direct deposit within 3 days rather than waiting for a check to come a week or so later. Other things that can include, just making sure we have the right address on file, things like that. Make sure, how you want the claims processed when they come in. If it's integrated with your insurance, do you want a notification sent to you? Do you want to be paid automatically? Things like that. So it's just going to go through a couple questions on how you want your HSA to operate and making sure that anything that we could need, like the beneficiary or contact number, is available. Can I put the all of the allowable amount into my HSA in January rather than monthly? If so, how do I do that? So Kelly, I don't know if you are able to mention if they're able to do that through their payroll, like if they're able to have a whole check go towards that or not.
Yeah, we do not. Yeah, they cannot.
Okay.
You cannot do that through. So if you do want to fully fund your HSA in January, you do need to send that money post tax to HealthEquity and go ahead and claim that on your taxes after the fact. I do think I would encourage folks to be careful about that, because if you do have any excess premium credit or monthly contributions set up, it could very easily send you over the limit. So you just want to make sure that whatever you send in January outside of what's kind of set up in your elections won't send you over the total limit. And actually, that is a good follow-up to that. I've seen a couple of questions. What does happen, Elise, if they go over the IRS limit? What happens?
Yeah, let me cover that. I do just want to follow up with the question on how to make a contribution. So if you have a bank account linked up already in your member portal, you can make the contribution that way just by typing in how much you want to add. Or if you're not sure how to do that, you can call our member services and they can help initiate that. Or there's a form that you can mail out and fill with a check. So those are two ways, and you still get the tax benefit. It will just happen when you file your taxes rather than being post-tax. Now, if for some reason you do over contribute to the account, you will need to get it corrected. Otherwise, there will be penalties that will apply from the IRS. That can be up to 20% depending on, your tax bracket and your area, how the tax laws apply and things like that. So there's just a form that you can download off of your member portal, or you can contact member services to have sent to you, that you'll just need to correct and say how much you over contributed, and we'll have those funds returned to you.
We have a question about why medications have to be paid in full before the deductible is met, and that's true for the HSA plans only. Only the HSA plans have the medication subject to the deductible, and it's really an IRS requirement. The IRS says that you have, in order for a plan to be eligible to allow you to contribute to an HSA, which has, as Kelly explained, very significant tax advantages, it has to have a certain minimum level of deductible, and nothing can help you pay for expenses prior to meeting that deductible. And that includes paying for medication expenses. I will share, though, that we have, HealthFlux does allow preventive medications, so medications that are considered preventive, to be paid by the plan before the deductible is met. And there is a preventive medication list. I will try to paste it in the chat. And that preventive medication list is quite comprehensive. And so if your medications are on that list, the plan actually does help pay for those medications before your deductible has been met.
We have a good question in here, and I'm going to publish the answer that we put. So someone was asking, the first time to an HSA, they're not quite sure, the difference between a traditional HSA and, traditional health plan and HSA, and what they cover and what the contributions are going towards. So I'm just going to post this link. We have a part of our website. It's called comparemyhsa.com. And it can show you the differences between a traditional health plan and an HSA health plan, and how they compare and which one may be beneficial to you. But so keep in mind, so with a traditional health plan, you usually have maybe a higher premium and lower deductible. So you're going to hit that deductible faster. And what's going to happen is your insurance company is going to be paying, all of those services at 100% sooner. However, up until you reach that deductible, you're paying 100%, but they may have like a bigger coinsurance part. So you're in the coinsurance status for a longer period of time until you reach that until you reach your out-of-pocket maximum. Now, with an HSA qualified health plan, you're going to have maybe a higher deductible, but you're going to have lower premiums, and then so you're paying a lot of things out of pocket. However, you have that HSA so that you can pay for those out of pocket, but it also covers things that your health insurance won't cover. So things that you would probably have to pay for anyways, you can use your HSA for. So over-the-counter medications like cold medicine, pain relievers, allergy medicine, first aid supplies, also feminine hygiene care products. Then it also covers, things like chiropractic care, which sometimes massage and chiropractic care are not covered by insurance plans. Or dental and vision is also covered with your HSA, which sometimes you're needing a separate insurance plan to cover those. So the HSA bridges the gap between what the insurance pays and what you have to pay out of pocket, and helps you save money because you're not having to pay taxes on those items. So hopefully that explains it a little bit better.
And for the Health Flex plans, the major difference in the HSA plans are that for the HSA plans that you do have to pay the full discounted cost of the pharmacy expenses before you meet your deductible, and also the family deductible. If you have more than one person covered in the Health Flex plan, the HSA plan, the family deductible always applies. So those are two big differences for the Health Flex plans in particular. But absolutely, like Elise shared, the premiums for those plans are often lower, and you can take the money that you've saved on premium and put that money in your HSA, and then use it to help pay for those higher out-of-pocket expenses.
Okay, we have another question. Can we use an estate plan or a trust as part of the beneficiary? So yes, you are able to list a trust or an estate as the beneficiary. Just keep in mind, as mentioned before, if you're listing anyone other than a spouse, then they would need to just inherit it as income and record that on their taxes. Okay, spouse is on another high deductible health plan with their employer. How much can each contribute if on the single plan in HealthFlex? So if you and your spouse are both on a high deductible plan, but you're most likely listed as single plans on both for each of you, or maybe your spouse has a family plan with children. Um, so each of you can contribute the individual amount, so up to 3,650. Now, if over 55, then you can also do that extra $1,000 amount. So for family, it's the $7,300. For single, it is half of that, so 3,650. Just make sure as a family you're not going over that family amount of the 7,300. And Kelly, maybe this one is a question for you. What happens, please clarify what happens to the premium funds if not used in 1 year.
So I'm not sure exactly what we mean about premium funds, but let me go ahead and provide some information that I think will be helpful. If you have excess premium credit that is left over after you make your health plan purchase, and you've elected an HSA plan, that excess premium credit gets deposited into an HSA. And then once that money is in the HSA, it's treated the same as any other HSA funds where it continues to roll over indefinitely, and it can go on to beneficiaries after your death. So those are the only real premium funds or premium credit funds. Otherwise, the full amount of the premium itself has to be paid each month in order to remain on the plan.
And I was also thinking maybe it could also apply if you're asking about the contributions to an HSA. So what happens to those if you don't use it in a year? So if that was what you're referring to, HSA funds do roll over year after year. So if you do not use them, those funds are able to build up and move to the next year as any other savings account could. I have a son or relative who is not on my insurance due to age. Can I help such relative pay for medications with an HSA funds? So with an HSA, you're only eligible to use the funds for yourself, your spouse, and any children that you claim as dependents on your plan. So if they are not a dependent, then you are not able to use your HSA funds for them. Okay. Yeah, thank you for your patience as we are trying to get to all these questions. There are a lot of great questions coming through, so thank you for your participation. Does both spouses need to be on the same high deductible health plan to contribute to the family maximum HSA? So to get the family maximum limit, the primary account holder needs to be on a family plan. So if you are on a family plan as the primary account holder, then yes, you can get that family limit. Now, if your spouse is not on that plan, that doesn't matter as long as you are not covered on their plan with them. So if you have access to the high deductible plan and your spouse's plan, then you have competing coverage, so you cannot contribute. So as long as the primary account holder is only on that high deductible plan, and that is a family coverage plan, then yes, you can contribute the family limit.
And a similar question we have about, so if there's a dependent child and the spouse is 75 and on Medicare and the primary is 65 or approaching 65. So as long as there is more than one individual in your household on the plan, on the HSA plan, you can contribute up to the family maximum. So even if you have a spouse who's on Medicare, as long as you cover individuals, more than one individual on the HealthFlex HSA plan, you can use that family maximum.
Okay. What happens when your medical expenses exceed the amount allowed in the HSA? So the great thing about an HSA is if you have more medical expenses than are allowed, that you're allowed to contribute, you can save them and you can reimburse yourself later. So, next year, if you don't have as many medical expenses and you're able to save more, you can reimburse yourself next year for those expenses that happened last year. With an HSA, there is no time limit to reimburse yourself for an eligible expense as long as you had the HSA at that time. So if you just get on the HSA this year, you cannot go back 5 years ago and pay for your past expenses. But if you're starting this year, and you reach that maximum amount, so you weren't able to pay for all of your expenses, but next year you do have some money left over, you can go back and pay yourself or reimburse yourself back from those expenses. So there's no time limit to do that. Can you go over the contribution limits? And if you do go over, what are the ramifications? I just found out that my payroll company overbilled me $500 in 2021. So the contribution limits for single coverage is 3,000 for 2021 is actually 3,600, and for individual, and 7,200 for family. So next year it's going to be going up just a tiny bit for those limits. So if you do go over that, there can be penalties that apply. You would need to talk to a tax advisor to see how that would affect you specifically. So we're not able to tell you exactly what the exact ramifications would be, since that would be when you file your taxes. So we can help you get that corrected. We can get those forms if you want to contact member services, or you can also download those forms from your member portal, and we can help you get that corrected. To decide how much you could be penalized, you would want to talk to a tax advisor.
We have a question about how much paperwork is involved in requesting funds, and I actually think it's very easy. You could use your purple HSA card and just swipe that at point of service, and really doesn't require any paperwork at all at the time, although you'll want to make sure you save some documentation of your expense in case you are ever audited. If you decide you want to, instead of using your HSA card, if you want to make a request for reimbursement for an expense you've already paid, you can submit that online on HealthEquity's website or app, and you can just either take a photo of the receipt, or you can upload it if you use the website. And again, you'll want to save that documentation anyway, because you'll need it in case you're audited, but it's actually quite easy to do.
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like it's easy, but it's always nice to hear for someone who's using it that they think it is easy too. So we don't require any paperwork. There is like a form that you can fill out to request paperwork, to request that reimbursement if you prefer to do it, paper and mail. But you can do it from the member portal. Really, you just type in a couple questions, how much are you requesting? When did the expense occur? What was it for? Who was the provider? And then you submit it. You'll select if you want it check or direct deposit, and then we'll send that out to you. So it's really not that hard. It just takes a couple of minutes, really. So question is, I have been told that a person qualifying for Medicare cannot have an HSA. Is this right? So Medicare eligibility and Medicare enrollment are two different things. So if you are eligible for Medicare, you are not enrolled in Medicare, so that's different. So it depends on if you are enrolled in Medicare. If you're receiving any type of Medicare coverage, then you cannot contribute to an HSA. You can still have an HSA if you have it from years past, and spend the funds out of it towards eligible expenses. You just cannot contribute any money to it.
I actually published that along with a link. Again, we have a document, Wespath has a document about people approaching Medicare eligibility and just things to consider. So I published that question in the link in the Q&A.
Okay. Another great question here. My husband and I are on the health insurance. I am contributing to the HSA. How can my husband contribute? He works for a job that does not give insurance. He also works for companies part-time. So if you guys are on that same health flex insurance plan, then you can contribute to the account through your payroll. Your husband can also contribute if you guys have like a joint bank account that you share. Keep in mind, you just can't go over that family maximum limit. Now, if your husband is over 55 and he's wanting to do like the catch-up limit for himself, you're both eligible to receive that extra $1,000 for that catch-up limit. Just keep in mind, if he's wanting to do that for him, he does need to open his own HSA to do his extra $1,000. But other than that, like if you're wanting to contribute from a personal bank account, he can do that. It's just going to be a post-tax contribution, and you'll get that tax benefit when you file your taxes together. Are the HSA funds invested? So by default, they are not. It is something that you have to elect. It's an optional choice to choose. So you don't have to they're not required to be invested, but you can invest them if you're wanting them to grow over time and have more available later. And there are step-by-step instructions on how to do that through the member portal. You can also call our member services for assistance on getting started as well.
There's a question about how do you open an HSA account? And if you choose an HSA plan during your annual election, just make sure that you accept the terms and conditions. We have those in order to legally be able to open an HSA on your behalf. We do need you to accept those terms and conditions and attest that you are eligible to contribute. And if you do that, we will actually open the HSA with HealthEquity on your behalf. And you'll be able to directly access that health savings account by going to Benefits Access and clicking Health and then Reimbursement Account, and then it will take you right to your HealthEquity account.
Yes, and once we do receive those enrollment files, we do send out a welcome packet with, the basics overview of how it works, how to access your account, and it will include your debit card as well. If I use HSA funds on something that is not eligible, how is that communicated to me? So there's a couple ways that it tries to prevent that. So the cards are medically coded to only work at pharmacies and doctors' offices, places that provide medical services that are eligible. Now, if the place also provides services that are not eligible, like for example, you go to a spa to get a massage, even though that massage was prescribed by your doctor, the spa also does other things like facials or manicures, pedicures that are not medically eligible. So they may decline the card and not work there. So on those cases, you would have to pay out of pocket and then just request a reimbursement. So the card does try to prevent some things. However, it's not going to recognize everything. It is up to you to make sure you are spending your funds on the eligible items, and you can do that by finding the website, which is learn.healthequity.com/QME, to look for eligible expenses, and then saving the receipts. So HealthEquity, we don't ask you to send every single receipt in. We're not going to audit every single transaction. It's up to the members, and the only time you would ever be requested to do that is if you're audited by the IRS. Now, if you did accidentally spend money on something that was not eligible, you are able to fix that in a couple different ways. There is a form that you can fill out to get that corrected, to have the funds returned back to the account for the non-eligible expense. Or what you can do is just, so say like you spent $25 and you actually bought groceries instead of, you use the wrong card at the grocery store. That grocery store had a pharmacy, and so the card was accepted. So if you go to Walmart, because they have a pharmacy counter, sometimes the cards will still work at the check stand. So if you use that wrong card, you spent $25 on groceries. What you can do next time is, if you have an expense for $25 for medical expenses, just pay for that out of pocket and then save both receipts, and they kind of just cancel each other out. So you can use one to substantiate the other. So as long as you have both the receipts, then that shows that, hey, I did spend this on groceries accidentally, but I spent this one out of pocket instead. So they're just canceling out. So you're just kind of reimbursing yourself for that expense. Or you can just return those funds back to the account if you prefer to do it that way. Can HSAs be used to pay for Medicare premiums? So yes, they can be used for Medicare premiums. You cannot use it for supplemental premiums, though, or Medigap insurances. It's only for Medicare premiums part A, B, C, or D. So yes, and that's only once you reach 65. How do I transfer an existing HSA account and funds to a HealthEquity HSA? So if you're wanting to do a transfer, we do have a transfer form that will need to be filled out. So you can get that from our member services or from the portal, download it yourself under your docs and forms, and send that to where it tells you to send it, and we can request those funds for you, and we'll complete the transfer. So you'll just put the other bank account information on there, we'll request the funds be sent, and they can be transferred.
And I actually think I just linked, I'll publish that as well. I think I just found that form on HealthEquity's website and posted it as a response to that question. So you don't even have to look for it.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have cleared out all the questions and we have 1 minute left. So I do just want to thank everybody for attending. And if you do have more questions later, our member services is available 24/7. They are happy to answer any questions they have. And even if you don't have an account yet, they can still answer your questions. So feel free to reach out to them if you think of something later. This recording will be sent out later today. And then also, we do have a survey that we do appreciate any feedback you can give us. So that will be redirected to you after this webinar ends. So thank you guys all for attending, and thank you, Kelly, for helping out with us our questions. I hope you all have a great day. Do you have anything else you need to add, Kelly, before we end?
Just thank you all very much for spending your time with us today, and you have until the 18th of November to complete your 2022 elections. So please take a look. We'll make sure we provide this recording and the other recording of the last webinar to make sure that you have the information you need. Don't forget to use Alex, can help you make your decisions, and you can reach all of that information through benefitsaccess.org.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.